Another day, another health expert on YouTube saving the world from actual doctors. Today we're diving into the mysterious health multiverse of Dr. Eric Berg, a chiropractor turned wellness influencer with the reach of Mayo Clinic and the credentials of a CrossFit coach. I recently clicked on one of his ADHD videos, and watching it felt like reading a textbook that was translated into emojis and back again. In this video, Dr. Berg explains ADHD like it's caused by potatoes and not doing enough push-ups. Meds? Nah. Just go outside, eat grass, line your chakras, problem solved. To be fair, some of what he says sort of touches real science in the same way a toddler touches a piano and calls it jazz. So in this video, we're going to break down his claims, filter the facts from fairy dust, and see how far a chiropractic license can actually stretch before it snaps. Let's get into it. Strap in, we're going full dopamine deficient detective mode.
Bad day, was it?
So Dr. Berg starts listing off ADHD symptoms like he's reading from the DSM-5, which, to be fair, is basically what he's doing.
Let me just quickly run through how they diagnose people with ADHD.
Makes mistakes frequently, does not pay attention to detail, does not listen when spoken to directly, doesn't follow through and complete things, cannot play quietly, problem organizing, losing things, often fidgets, too much energy, talks too much.
But what he doesn't mention is the actual criteria required for a real diagnosis. You can't just cherry pick traits like it's a build-your-own disorder buffet. To actually meet the criteria, these behaviors need to be inconsistent with the person's developmental level, aka not just kids being kids, show up in at least 2 settings, not just at grandma's house after 5 Oreos, cause actual impairment, last for at least 6 months, and not be explained by something else, like trauma, sleep deprivation, or, being 3 years old.
There's no objective testing that can be done. It's all subjective.
Yes, there's no blood test for ADHD, just like there's no blood test for depression, anxiety, PTSD, or how bad your first date went. Most psychiatric and neurological disorders are diagnosed clinically through interviews, questionnaires, and observations by trained professionals. No one's guessing here. These are standardized assessments. We're talking real tools. The Vanderbilt, the Connors scale, not TikTok says I have it. Mental health conditions are diagnosed based on patterns of behavior because that's literally what they are. You don't need a blood test to know someone's struggling.
And the way that they actually came up with this disorder is they got a bunch of psychiatrists in a room and they all voted on it, and that's how it became what it is.
This part's wild. He makes it sound like the DSM-5 was written in a group chat by pharma reps and astrology people. In reality, the DSM-5 was written by working groups of experts, psychiatrists, psychologists, neuroscientists, people who've been buried in research papers longer than you've been alive. Well, maybe not him. They discuss, debate, and vote, just like how we make guidelines for everything else in medicine. Vaccines, ACIP, diabetes, the ADA, heart disease, the AHA, or ACC. It's not weird.
Problem is, recently there was a whole meta-analysis that came out that showed that the effects of this drug in a double-blinded study after 36 months showed that any benefit from Adderall faded to 0, going back to the same symptoms they started with.
Okay. This might be the wildest statement I've heard from any self-proclaimed healthcare provider, and I once saw a guy try to treat migraines with moon water. ADHD is a chronic condition, meaning it doesn't magically vanish just because you stopped treating it, any more than high blood pressure goes away when you stop taking your meds. No sane doctor says, "Oh, well, Mr. Johnson, your hypertension is cured because you stopped taking your medication and didn't immediately explode."
Now, let's go and make the greatest war movie ever!
Yeah!
Yeah!
All right!
Oh. That's not how chronic disease works. That's how denial works. The claim that a drug like Adderall only works while it's in your body isn't some kind of trick. That's literally how every medication works. And the part where he implies Adderall has benefits that lasts for months after stop. If that were true, Adderall deserves its own Nobel Peace Prize and its own statue in front of the Mayo Clinic.
Of course, if you put anyone on a drug like that, their performance is going to increase for a while until the drug wears off.
Saying a drug stops working when your body gets rid of it isn't some damning flaw. That's literally pharmacology. That's like being mad when your umbrella stops working when you close it.
But the problem is, what about the side effects, right? There's a lot of side effects. Aggressive behavior, dulls the mood.
Yes, ADHD meds can have side effects, just like every other medication, or literally anything you put in your mouth that isn't a blueberry. Aggression and mood dulling can happen, but they're not the norm. We start low, we go slow, and monitor closely because dose matters. This isn't throw Adderall at the wall and see what sticks. Ironically, when dosed properly, these meds actually help with emotional dysregulation. So blaming them for making people numb is like blaming glasses for making things too clear.
Why? Because it affects their neurotransmitters artificially.
Yeah, stimulants affect neurotransmitters. That's the point. Calling it artificial like it's a bad thing is weird. You know what else is artificial? Insulin. And no one's out here shaming diabetics for cheating with Big Pharma's glucose hacks. ADHD involves dysregulation of dopamine and norepinephrine in areas like the prefrontal cortex. Medication restores that balance. It's not sorcery, it's neurology.
I did look at what it said in Wikipedia about this condition as far as the cause, and there's a lot of data on genetics.
Wikipedia, the world's most peer-reviewed platform. As long as your peers are two teenagers arguing in a forum. Yes, ADHD is highly heritable, which means it often runs in families, not that it was invented by millennials for attention and Adderall.
And I looked at the actual genes that are supposed to be causing ADHD.
He looked at it. He took a scanner and he saw it. We've entered the part of the video where a vague visual counts as neuroscience.
I gave this impression that, it's genetic and you really can't do anything, so you might as well just take the medication and see if that can help.
Just because something has a genetic component doesn't mean it's unchangeable. Ever heard of diabetes, hypertension, asthma? We don't throw our hands up and say, well, grandma had it, guess I'll just raw dog fate. ADHD is no different. It's manageable, not mythical. Treatment doesn't erase your genetics, it helps you work with them.
There is some known things about this condition. We do know that there's some metabolic problem with the prefrontal cortex of the brain. There are some metabolic changes, and I'm talking about the way that the brain metabolizes fuel.
He's technically half right, but that relationship is like comparing a fork to a motorcycle. They both have metal, sure, but only one can take you to work.
What happened? I thought I was going down.
You are. Now.
This isn't about skipping breakfast and feeling a little cranky. We're talking about long-term neurodevelopmental wiring, not whether you had your Wheaties.
I guarantee you right now, if I ate these Pop-Tarts for breakfast, my behavior would be completely inappropriate.
Please do it. Eat the Pop-Tarts. Let's wait a few minutes and see if you suddenly transform into an executive functioning machine.
There was an interesting meta-analysis done in 2021.
Oh God, he couldn't see before. Now the veil has been lifted. He's about to hit us with the real truth.
Broad-spectrum micronutrients, especially B6, zinc, magnesium, significantly decrease ADHD symptoms.
To be fair, yeah, some of these might help, especially if someone's deficient in things like iron, magnesium, or omega-3s. But let's be real. If magnesium alone cured ADHD, we'd be out here sprinkling Epsom salt on everything like it's Parmesan cheese.
And hands down, the most overlooked nutrient, especially in psychiatric conditions, is vitamin B1.
Okay, he's just naming an essential vitamin, explaining what happens in an extreme deficiency, and then pulling the old, and therefore ADHD. Yes, B1 or thiamine is important. No one's debating that, but unless your child's diet consists exclusively of Mountain Dew and dry noodles, they're probably getting enough. This isn't medicine, it's nutritional bait and switch.
B1 enables the brain to utilize fuel, especially glucose. If a child is consuming a lot of glucose, what's going to happen is their brain, especially the frontal part that they need to focus and feel calm, it's not going to get fuel.
This is wild oversimplification. Yes, B1 helps metabolize glucose, but eating a bagel doesn't strip your brain of nutrients. We're not seeing a widespread ADHD epidemic because of bread. ADHD isn't some kind of glucose deficiency in the frontal lobe. It's a neurodevelopmental condition involving brain networks, neurotransmitter regulation, and genetics. Not because Timmy had a waffle.
That child, that teenager, an adult needs to change the diet to a low-carb diet so their bodies can run on ketones. And ketones are going to bypass the damage they have in the neurons.
For God's sakes, don't do this. Ketogenic diets were originally developed for severe epilepsy under strict medical supervision and only for cases where medications failed. But for ADHD, you want to starve the brain of glucose when the problem is already focus, regulation, and processing? Why would starving help that? You're not hacking the matrix, you're just making your kid hangry and dizzy.
ADHD is a diet problem. It's a nutritional deficiency problem. It is not a genetic problem. It can be easily handled if you change that diet.
You know, I couldn't imagine someone listening to this and delaying care for their child for months, for years, maybe forever, because someone in a lab coat told them Pop-Tarts cause ADHD. Yes, food can affect health. Yes, nutrients matter, but to claim that nutrition alone explains ADHD, that's not functional medicine. That's actually just reckless. This entire video was a cherry-picked buffet of half-truths, misrepresented studies, and straight-up pseudoscience, just plated nicely with a soft voice and a doctor badge. And yeah, he's got that whole trust me, I look like your high school biology teacher aesthetic. But 13 million subscribers hearing this kind of stuff, that's not just a YouTube milestone, that's a public health hazard. If you made it this far, thank you. I know it's exhausting seeing this much health misinformation packaged like wellness inspiration, but I genuinely believe debunking it matters because someone out there is skipping care they need, someone else is blaming themselves or their kid instead of understanding the real medical nature of ADHD. If you found this helpful, like, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it, or just scream into a pillow, that works too. You got questions, drop them in the comments. I will read them, I promise. And if there's something you want me to cover next, let me know. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one.